Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports on Converge Media. This is the first week of April, and it's kind of crazy that things are continuing. It feels like a rapid pace every time we're here on a Monday, right? Bel Garcia, Charles Hammaker with you as always here. We I think last week we are like, oh, it's so nice to not have so much to talk about. And then, boom, we're back into it. So with that being said, your most complete coverage of Seattle sports, we'll get right into it with our Seattle news about the Seahawks here. Nothing, I guess, too groundbreaking, but some interesting tidbits here and there, especially about a certain wide receiver.
Yes, let's go ahead and dive right into those with some Seahawks news. Well, not really news, but just quick updates. The Seahawks are not fully closing the door on a Carlos Dunlap return. So they are looking at the possibility of having him back. And I think that release shocked everyone. So I'm not completely surprised that they're considering just picking him back up. Do you think this is for contract reasons or just to restructure things?
It might have been a contract thing. I know that he was playing out of position even last year, and that kind of hindered some of his stats. I know the game that comes to mind is the 49ers game at home where he had an impact. I think he had a safety in that game. I don't know. I think what probably sticks out is a contractual thing, but I don't understand why you cut him as opposed to, unless, again, like with the Bobby Wagner situation, you came to the table and said, which I don't think happened. I think they confirmed that they didn't ask him to take a pay cut. Mm-hmm. So bad. But I wonder if you come to the table and you ask Carl, he said, hey, are you going to take a pay cut? He said, no. All right. We have to do something. So I'm going to assume that they didn't do that. I was going to think, hey, it might have been a cap hit thing. But, going to a 3-4 defense, you're going to need, usually your down linemen are going to be bigger guys to stuff the run. Your outside guys are going to be linebackers that rush the passer. So are you putting Dunlap at an outside linebacker position there and then sometimes risk having to put him in coverage? You see what I mean? He's more, I feel like, fits into a 4-3 defense. Mm-hmm. So it might be a fit thing now. So it might be, hey, if you want to come back at a lower number, we can get you in some pass rush snaps.
Yeah.
But I think it's up to Dunlap at this point if he wants to do that and deeming where, the money. So I don't know if he would want to come into a fit like that right now.
Sure.
At this stage in his career, you know what I mean?
Are there reports that he's been in talks with any other teams? I didn't think so.
I haven't seen anything.
Yeah. Okay.
I have not seen it.
We'll go ahead and move on to our next little tidbit here. The Seahawks and Kaepernick have talked, but while Kaepernick reached out to Seattle for a workout, Pete Carroll says that the conversations have not progressed between them, so still no accepted workout, and Kaepernick still tries to find his way back to the NFL.
I wonder about it because I think we talked about it a few weeks ago when Pete and John had that press conference. And he's like, I think you brought it up. He was like, hey, he might have a second chance. I don't know if it's in football, though.
Right.
And it's like, it doesn't really seem like there's any positive momentum towards it. And especially with what we've seen, what you just mentioned, Bel, I don't know. I don't see it. I know we've got some stuff about him later, so we'll get to that in league news. But
we will.
Is it in Seahawks blue and green? I kind of doubt it with how they've talked about him.
Yeah, I don't think Carroll is open to it so much. It definitely doesn't sound like it. So hopefully he finds his way. NFL.com identifies that the Seahawks draft needs 3 different positions: QB, offensive tackle, and corner. Corner is the one that sticks out to me the most.
Yeah,
because we have
the other
3
ones
in the position.
Makes sense. Yeah, but like you were saying, to sign, help me out here. It was Coleman, Burns, and Sidney. Yeah, so you signed those. Yep, good on you. So if you've already got Trey Brown coming back, so there's 4 guys, right? Who, if you draft somebody, who's getting pushed out of there?
Right.
Who's losing minutes? Unless you're playing a bunch of quarter sets where you've got 5 cornerbacks on the field, which you won't be. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't think they'd be looking so much at the corner position. I know we've talked previously about the quarterback position and Malik Willis being possibly a good fit. So I think that's maybe where they would look. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that corner position needs to be looked at anymore or any more changes to be made.
Yeah, no, I would. I think it's fine now. I mean, we talked about it before we went on air about Kevin King still being in there and
Mhm.
having a guy that's got the size that he does. But it doesn't. I mean, yeah, it feels like we're getting a little crowded in the cornerback room because someone's going to have to sit on the bench here.
Right.
Especially if you draft somebody. If you draft somebody, they probably will be developed, right? But Trey Brown got drafted and came in and he was a contributor immediately
Mhm.
and kind of forced his way into that conversation. So yeah, the first two make sense. Haven't signed Dwayne Brown. Don't know what he's doing. The other week he was talking about Carolina and quarterback. I mean, that's no
Yeah.
secret, right? But I mean, offensive tackle makes sense. Quarterback makes sense. Corner, I'm intrigued by that
Yeah.
situation.
And the Seahawks do have 9 picks in the 2022 NFL draft, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with those.
Wonder if that number expands to more, or if it shoots down with how John Schneider likes to trade those picks here and there. So we'll
Yes.
see how that goes.
And in a little bit more, I don't even know what word would be appropriate for this. I guess frightening news. NFL executives believe that the Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf can be had at the right price, despite the Seahawks saying that it has no plans for a trade and, of course, hoping to extend him. Apparently, there's belief that of the possibility of him leaving.
Well, it's funny because just like an hour ago, DK kind of addressed this himself, and I'll throw this up here on the screen so we can see it, because JPA Football is a good account on Twitter. They kind of are on top of rumors and things
Okay.
like that, and they tweeted basically what you just said. And here's DK's reply to that: "Haven't heard anything per DK Metcalf 14." So it's interesting. But I mean, Bel and I talk about things before we go on air, right? Like what's happened, obviously what we're going to talk about in the show. Would DK be moved? Now, we've been in this position before. Kind of. Well, they're different, with Russell Wilson and his agent Mark Rodgers talking about a trade, pushing a trade, talking about potential teams, talking about wanting more involvement in the offense, wanting more protection. Haven't heard anything, at least from DK's camp, right?
Yeah.
But also it's funny, on Seahawks Twitter, the word intent has been used a lot. They intended to keep Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
They intend to extend DK Metcalf, but also with the money that wide receiver. I mean, we talked about it last week with Tyreek Hill, right? The money that the wide receiver position, the wide receiver market has been getting. I don't know how. One, if what DK wants money wise, right? If he wants to be in that top area,
I would think so.
yeah. And two, if John Schneider is willing to pay that, and that's the thing with Denver, right? When Russell Wilson's contract comes up in 2 years, or if they want to restructure it before that, he's going to want big money.
Mhm.
You know that.
Mhm.
Let alone Rodgers' contract. Matthew Stafford got a big extension. He's going to want big money.
Yeah.
And John Schneider wouldn't have been willing to pay $50 million a year at the quarterback spot. So I'm interested to see what that extension looks. I mean, I'd be happy just to get the extension out of the way. I don't care.
Mhm.
Throw the blank check here. Go DK, sign it, do what you want. But are you going to, like, if you ask me if I think he's going to be traded, I don't know. Because last time I said no to someone being traded, that ended up being wrong. And I got laughed about it in the comment section. And I get it. It makes sense, right? But I can tell you for sure, I would say no, because talked about the leadership role he's going to take in the last few weeks,
Mhm.
right? He talked about with Bobby being gone and Russell being gone. He said he wants to be the guy, right? Tyler Lockett, love Tyler Lockett, but I'm not saying he's old. But I mean, when you think about the Seahawks offense, he's kind of the guy that comes to mind for me. So I would hope that you'd keep him around, because people are, oh, you could trade him for a first round pick. I have no idea what a first round pick. It's more of it's a gamble. It is a gamble. With DK Metcalf, you know what you're getting, and he's getting better, right? He played. The report came out, I think, last week or a few weeks ago, that he was playing on a broken foot or something.
Yeah.
From week 4, and still making an impact, right? So this is a guy that is still getting better, and you know what you're getting. You know what you have, as opposed to, oh, let's get a first round pick, and I have no idea how he'll succeed, right? I would rather go with a proven commodity as opposed to not.
but we've been blindsided before.
Yes, we have.
So
yes, we have.
Take it with a grain of salt. But as soon as something breaks, of course, we'll have more to talk about. And just further on DK Metcalf, there was a
less important news.
Yeah, less important news. His meals for the day.
His diet, the DK diet.
Yeah, the DK diet. I guess I should say one meal. He has one meal, a cup of coffee, and 3 to 4 bags of candy a day. And I'm just going to say that I think DK has a great sense of humor for saying that, because I don't believe that could be somebody's diet.
I mean, you see those pre-draft pictures of him, and his. I think he's might be a little bit of a joke.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's a joke, right? But a little bit lighthearted as compared to what we were just talking about.
Yeah,
and we need that with the next headline that we're going to look at here, because
for sure, maybe that's him stepping in his leadership role, taking away from the seriousness here.
Yeah.
So. In other news, Bobby Wagner has found a team. He signed with the LA Rams on a 5-year, $5 million contract, and that can go up to $65 million with incentives. While some of us may be upset that he went to a division rival, we should remember that Bobby did not choose to leave, and so hope for his success in this next chapter.
Well, and then the thing that's always going to be interesting look at the cap money, right? That's 65 million guaranteed. Potentially with incentives.
Yeah.
Bobby Wagner is his own agent. He doesn't have an agent. He's representing himself. So he worked himself into that after we saw the report the other week that the Rams didn't want to pay him a 1-year, $11 million deal.
Yeah.
So the Rams are already cash strapped, right? And he works his way into that. So, you can increase that $15 million potentially with incentives. So he gets to go back to Southern California, where he's from. He gets to compete on a team that just won the Super Bowl and has tons of talent still. Play with an Aaron Donald in front of him. Who else is on? Jalen Ramsey out at corner. Mm-hmm. So he gets to be on a loaded team. He gets to get paid, and he gets to go home effectively in a way. I know he said that Seattle's home, and I appreciate Bobby for saying that. But yeah, it's if anybody is feeling any sort of anger or like anything negative towards him, it doesn't make any sense for you to feel that way.
Yeah.
I get feeling upset that he's gone, right? But feeling upset that he chose the Rams.
How could you not?
talk to John Schneider or Pete Carroll about that. Because one, they didn't let him know that he was getting cut. They didn't ask him to take a pay cut and then just cut him. Mm-hmm. So that's on them. That's all in the front office. So yeah, it's at the end of the day, good for Bobby.
Yeah, definitely. And on April 3rd, the Seahawks off-season dates were announced. Voluntary off-season workout program starts April 19th. Voluntary OTAs are May 23rd, 25th, 26th, and 31st, as well as June 2nd, 3rd, 6th, and 9th. And mandatory minicamp will be June 14th through the 16th. Moving on to some league news here. On the 29th, the NFL approved a playoff overtime change. So both teams will now be guaranteed a possession in a postseason overtime under a rule change passed Tuesday by NFL owners. So I know as soon as I saw that, there were tweets coming in about, oh my gosh, you think about like what this team could have done back in this year, or, so it'll be interesting moving forward. But I think a lot of happy people.
It's also kind of interesting that it's only a playoffs thing, and I get that, right? But yeah, you talk about like the Bills last year, right? But it's always kind of funny. The two games that come to mind when I think about that rule are that game now and the Tim Tebow game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, where Tebow throws a slant to Demaryius Thomas. May Demaryius Thomas rest in peace. Mm-hmm. And he takes it all the way. And the Steelers, I think, had a really good team that year. And I think the Broncos were a wild card team, and because of that rule, touchdown, and then the game's over.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting that it's just regular season, but at least it's in place. At least they did something about it.
Yeah, they worked hard enough to get there, so at least now both teams will have a chance to secure a win. In other news, Cam Newton is looking for the right fit. He is still a free agent, correct?
Yep.
And is reportedly weighing offers from several teams. So, right fit. What do you think that means?
I'm sure he wants a starter role, right? But also being able to I don't know. I wonder. I'm sure he wants to be in a somewhat winning position.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you're a quarterback and you're looking for a hole to fill on a team, if a team's looking for a quarterback, they usually aren't that close to winning, right? Because usually that's the big spot. I don't know what positions
Yeah.
are open for that right now, really. Because the ones that I had thought about, like in Indianapolis, comes to mind, and we'll get to that next with this next headline. They've got Matt Ryan now, and it's not like Cam Newton can sit for a year or two behind a guy. He's getting up there too.
Yeah.
So it's probably a situation that might not be there right now for him. It's probably pretty tough because I'm sure he wants to win because he's getting up there. I don't think he needs a ton of money because he's already made a good amount. I think it's just winning
Yeah.
and being in a situation to win now. That's what I would think.
Okay. Well, hopefully he finds that right fit soon enough. And just as you mentioned, the Colts owner says that Wentz era was a mistake, did not hold back on that. Jim Irsay didn't hold back any feelings, said former quarterback Carson Wentz, for us, the fit just wasn't right. So strong feelings there, just being let out.
It's always interesting around the league when you see headlines like this where whether it's someone in the front office or the actual owner says something like this, and you look at Seattle where that normally doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting because that might come back to bite you. I know we've seen things in the sports world where karma really shows up. But I don't know if I'm in that position. And Carson Wentz didn't play horribly. That Jaguars game in week 18 was a little odd and really disappointing if you're a Colts fan. But at the end of the day, he wasn't bad. He wasn't horrible. So it says a lot to me about how you treat players, I guess, or how
sure.
what kind of message you're sending to free agents, right? Or guys that you're going to draft, like, hey, if I don't do so well, they might toss me aside and talk bad about me afterwards.
Yeah,
so
that's not a good.
That's how I look at that.
So if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. On March 30th, Bucks Bruce Arians retires as head coach, starts new role as senior football consultant, and defensive coordinator Todd Bowles has been announced as the team's new head coach. Bowles gets a 5-year. Bowles gets a 5-year deal, and Arians spent 3 seasons as the Buccaneers head coach.
Do you have anything to think about this in relating to Tom Brady coming back? Because I know when Brady initially retired, I think Arians was asked, "Oh, is the door open for Tom to come back?" And he had a really interesting answer. Like, "I don't really care." Kind of threw some expletives in there. We're moving on. And some people are like, "Well, do you think it has any impact that Tom came back?" Because apparently. Before he came back, he was told that Arians was going to retire. I don't know. That's a rumor. But do you maybe think that had any influence on it?
Of course, he denies that there was any rift in their relationship. But the one thing that it did make me think about was Antonio Brown, actually, and his claim that players were playing hurt and it didn't matter if you were hurt, you still had to be out there. So I wasn't sure if maybe he was trying to fight some of that controversy as well as possibly not getting along with Tom Brady or whatever that might have been. But interesting for sure. And do other teams have a senior football consultant?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Wasn't sure if that was just kind of something they
made
they threw for
hey,
it.
Bruce, we got something for you.
Yeah. So okay. No, yeah, that was definitely the first thing that it made me think of was Antonio Brown and how true those claims might be. So, moving forward here, on April 2nd, Colin Kaepernick threw at the Michigan spring game. He continues to wait for an opportunity to rejoin the NFL, says that he can help make a team better, can help them win games, and has told others that he's open to accepting a backup role. So, really just trying to get back in it.
Yeah, I think that would be what he would get anyway, regardless of what happens. Would it be a backup role? But look, however you feel about the guy, I know that at the end of his time with the Niners, he wasn't putting up huge numbers. I get that, right? But you can't look at certain guys in the NFL that are in third string or second string roles and tell me they're better than him. And you're not at least giving him a tryout. If teams were giving him tryouts and they weren't signing him, okay, I get it. He's bad, right? But no one's given him at least a tryout, right? So I'm not normally a big fan. Which one's at Michigan? Is it Jim Harbaugh? I think it's
Jim Harbaugh. Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of him just because of his time with the Niners and even back with Stanford when he, things he said to Richard Sherman. But it was good on him, I think, to allow that to happen, right, and to give him an opportunity. And really, I'm just waiting till the day that it pops up that we see that he got at least a tryout, right? Because we haven't seen that. We have not seen that.
Yeah, for sure. So all the luck to Kaepernick. We did see that last throw that he completed, and he didn't look rusty at all. So hopefully he finds his way back. New claims surfaced against the Commanders as well. The House receives info alleging Washington kept ticket revenue required to be shared with other NFL teams.
Yeah, I guess that's stuff that's supposed to be always shared. And so on top of the claims against, I forgot his name, Schneider, their owner, I mean, there's more stuff piling up, and you've got to wonder when is this going to be enough? Their ownership, that organization as a whole. I mean, it happens with the Spirit in the NWSL. Their Washington owner, terrible person. And it's like, why is this a trend with Washington teams? I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but I would like to see the Commanders finally kick him out. I mean, it should have been happening. It should have happened a while ago.
Yeah.
And I just hope that maybe this is now, something that they will get out. Because, I mean, this is like, a lot of this is illegal.
Yeah, so, something's definitely just not working up there, and they for sure need change soon. Moving forward, the only thing looking ahead is the NFL draft, which will take place April 28th through the 30th.
Yeah, so that's all that's kind of on the docket outside of what Bel talked about with the off-season dates. But I think that's kind of what we have to look forward to next. Is, I mean, free agency is kind of slowed to a mild dripping. There's nothing really going on. And now the draft is kind of where we look at next for the Seahawks team to improve. So with that being said, we kind of head to I almost say the brunt of the information this week, especially with what happened this morning.